Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Wednesday, January the 26th, 2022. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to go through a really intense 10-game NBA slate with 9 teams on the second night of a back-to-back. So when you combine, 20 teams playing, 9 teams on the second night of a back-to-back, and all of the COVID stuff, all of the injuries, it is going to be a fun slate. I love it, though. I think this gives us a great edge here at Coach Talk. We love to break this down game by game, team by team, figure it all out, and get that gigantic edge. I mean, it's easy when you have a 2-game slate with no changes. Everybody's playing the same stuff. But when you really have to dig in and take a look at this and figure it all out, it really makes it worthwhile because you're going to get some good edge. So we'd love to have you join us here at DFS Coach Talk. Just go to dfscoachtalk.com. Several memberships you can sign up there, even our 3-day membership, which is just $10. So if you want to dip your toes in the water and check us out, that's a great opportunity to do that. Also, in case you hear noise in the background today, they are replacing my roof, and it sounds like they are tearing down the world here. So you can probably hear that. I'm safe. There's no earthquakes. They're just taking the roof off of this building here and replacing it, and it's not pretty. So I apologize if the news or the sound interrupts. All right. We're not going to mess around today. We don't have the time to do that. We're going to go after this sucker right from the get-go. Game number 1. There's 3 games at 7 o'clock, so we get 3 early starts. And all 3 sites, Draftkings Fanduel and Yahoo, all have the 10-game main slate. So that makes it much better. All right, 7 o'clock, Charlotte Hornets at the Indiana Pacers. Charlotte's favored by 1.5 on the road. How about that? Nice 226 total. 113.75 implied for Charlotte, 112.25 for the Indiana Pacers. Charlotte comes in 26-22, the Pacers 17-31. And we know they've been banged up, had tons of guys in and out, and today is no different. Charlotte has Gordon Hayward questionable. He missed the game yesterday, and Charlotte is the second night of a back-to-back, by the way. Indiana is not. They're one of the teams on an island game. So Hayward playing or not playing is an important piece. Definitely Cody Martin, Kelly Oubre, and the ejected PJ Washington from yesterday. We had one of our members with an all fire emojis, and then PJ Washington got ejected. So Mike, sorry, man, that was a tough one to swallow. So I'm sure you're not going to be going back to him anytime soon. After that, Jalen with an L, McDaniels, is out. His brother Jaden plays for Minnesota. So they're missing McDaniels and possibly Hayward. So the 3 guys I mentioned that they usually bring off the bench, one will start and the other 2 will get a lot more action. Indiana, it's not as pretty. We do have a questionable tag on Sabonis, so that is huge news. We'll have to have that before lock for sure. I mean, it's just massive news because we know that Brogdon, McConnell, Turner, and Warren are all out. So, Sabonis obviously becomes a key play on this slate if he's going to play and if he's going to play without a minutes restriction. So we'll get that news from there. As far as the statistical look at this game, we've got Charlotte, the second fastest paced team in the league. So huge pace up for the Pacers guys that are playing. And Indiana 25th. So just the opposite for the Hornets side of the ball. Defense, that's why we have a 226 total here, 24th and 21st. Defensive efficiency for these 2 teams. A couple of things to look at. Let's just walk through this with the Hornets. If Hayward's in without restrictions, you can consider him. But LaMelo Ball's at 8-1. he disappointed again last time, so not sure I'm comfortable there. Rozier has gone all the way up to 7.9 now, and I think that's a little high. His definitely been a little more inconsistent than normal. Miles Bridges is a decent play. He is 8.2, so it's a big commitment to salary, but I think he's a decent play. And if Hayward sits, you can certainly consider, except for our buddy Mike there, 4.7 PJ Washington, 5.4 Kelly Oubre, or 4K Cody Martin. The other guy that's really working his way into this rotation is James Bouknight, 3.2. I wouldn't recommend him quite today, but somebody to keep an eye on because he's really earning the fact that he needs to get some minutes. As far as the Pacers go, I think, we've got that same scenario that we had 2 days ago when I talked about LeVert and Duarte, wanted one or the other, depending on if LeVert was going to play. They both played and they both played well. So certainly could go back to either one of them here. LeVert is 8.6, but again, a huge pace up going against this second fastest team in the league, Hornets. So LeVert's on the radar. If you want to get a bit of a discounted price and play a guy going against this quicker pace, Chris Duarte is 2,000 cheaper at 6.6. After that, if obviously, if our man Sabonis plays, he's a great play. But if he doesn't, you've just got an absolute pool of garbaggio, if you ask me. I do not want these guys. Justin Holiday, Torrey Craig, Jeremy Lamb, O'Shea Brissett, Lance Stevenson, Dwayne Washington. I mean, I know Washington was hot the last game, but you cannot tell me anybody can figure out what that group of guys is going to do. Goga Bitadze, I understand at 6.5. If Sabonis sits, Turner's out, Goga's a decent play. But there were several times that he was played off the floor in that last game. So the question is, will Charlotte do the same thing? If they take Plumlee out, he'll start, and they go with one of the guys we mentioned, Washington or Oubre specifically, they can go small, and they do that. They play Miles Bridges at the 5 sometimes. If that happens, Goga sits, and then Pacers go small as well. So not going to touch Goga there. Really just totally focused on LeVert and or Duarte. All right, game 2. It's the Milwaukee Bucks and Cleveland Cavaliers. Milwaukee's favored by 4. It's a 217 total. 110.5 implied for Milwaukee. 106.5 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Milwaukee comes in 30-19. Cleveland 29-19. And Giannis is listed as probable. So certainly counting him in on all my builds today. The guys that are out are cheap shot specialist Grayson Allen, Brooke Lopez. We have Matthews and Wigginton also out. For Cleveland, the big question mark there, again, early 7 o'clock game, so we'll have the news, is Jared Allen. Jared Allen is listed as questionable, and we know Lauri Markkanen is going to miss 2 or 3 games with his most recent injury. So we do have some shuffling there. The question will be, do you pay up for Giannis here? Is he one of your key guys to go to? Statistically, these two teams are both on an island game. There's only 2 games on this whole entire 10-game slate where you have 2 teams on an island game, and this is one of them. Milwaukee's 9th in pace, and Cleveland is 27th. So huge pace down game for the Bucks. Defensively, the problem here and why you've got a 217 total is you've got 2 top 9 defenses in the league. Milwaukee's 9th, Cleveland 3rd. So that is a bit of a deterrent. The other tough spot is when Milwaukee has all their guns, it is really tough to get to them, and it's hard to really feel comfortable with it. I know Giannis is excluded from any conversation with something like that, but he is 11-8. And he has Drew Holiday in there at 7.8. He has Chris Middleton at 8.8 and Bobby Portis at 6.8. So, you've got the other 3 studs with them. They have 4 legit guys that, can throw a 50 on the board. And then, subbing in for Cheap Shot Master is Pat Connaughton, who's only 4.1, and he was hitting some shots. And then Dante DiVincenzo, he's starting to get his feet under him after being back here for a while. He really contributed last game, and he's only 4K. So it's a little tough. Cleveland's defense is really good. They play really slow, and I'm just not going to dive into this game, with any gusto. I don't believe I'm going to pay up the 11-8 for Giannis. As of right now, he's not making my squad. Very hard to ever eliminate him or the Joker or Embiid. These guys that just seem to smash every game. But, when you're trying to build from top to bottom and have all of your guys get a big number, and, it's amazing. Let's face it, if you're playing the real competitive tournaments and even some of the cash games, the double ups are tough too. You can't have any blanks. I mean, if you put if you pay up for a guy like Giannis and it forces you to put in a super cheap guy and he gets to 5X, but that 5X is 19 or 20, it's not going to be enough. So it really is competitive, and you have to balance all of that out. So we do have some great value here, and you can make it happen. I'm not saying you can't, but you can't also just, expect a 19 to be part of an optimal type lineup at all. So it makes it very tough. So I'm not high on the Bucks side of the ball. As far as Cleveland, I think there's a couple of things. I think Evan Mobley's a phenomenal player. I really like him. But there's 2 things that I'm concerned with here. One, Jared Allen plays. It definitely takes some of the rebounds, some of the blocks a little bit away from Mobley. Not that he can't get there. Again, I'm sorry if you hear the giant noise of the roof being knocked out here. But, he's also going to get Giannis defense, and that's a concern. And Bobby Portis scraps at it. So probably not going to go up to the 8-1 Mobley or the 8K Jared Allen. And we need the news on Allen, first of all, if he's going to play or not. If he does sit, I will be tempted to go to Mobley regardless, just because of, the amount of usage, the touches, the rebound availability definitely increases when Allen's out. Other than that, your go-to guy, Darius Garland, I mean, he's an absolute stud, but he's all the way up to 9-4, and he gets Drew Holiday defense. So, yeah, I'd love to watch this game. I think it'll be a very fun, competitive game with 2 teams that are making a lot of noise in the East. But I just don't think it's a great DFS game, really in any manner at all, because we've got such great games, big totals, and back-to-back scenarios where we're going to get some guys that are going to just grab all the usage. So I'm very reluctantly probably going to pass on this game. All right, game 3. It's the LA Clippers and Orlando Magic. Orlando is favored by a half point. I love when they do that. It doesn't mean anything. You can't cover by a half point in basketball. But anyway, basically pick them. 212.5 the total, 106 for the Clippers, that infamous 106.5 for the Orlando Magic. In this game, we've got Clippers coming in at 24-25 with that. Did you see the win last night for the Clippers? Are you kidding me? They were down 30 at halftime to the Wizards on the road. Then they got down 35 3 minutes into the third quarter, and I have no idea how, but they won in regulation. They erased a 35-point deficit on the road in the NBA, and it ended. They had this game won 1,000 times. They were up 3, and they let Kennard get the ball to shoot a 3 instead of just fouling him and putting it at the line or fouling somebody. But they fouled him shooting the 3. He makes the 3, makes the foul shot. They lose by 1 at home after leading by 35. So watch out for the Wizards. There's going to be some fallout. They are in serious turmoil. Listening to the broadcasters, I'm going to be highlighting Washington games and playing against them for a while because they've got to make a lot of moves. They have a ton of guys unhappy with minutes. They got all those guys back, and it's just a disaster there. So just wanted to mention that because, it's interesting because that was last night. Clippers are on the second night of a back-to-back, but here's the key. When they got down 35, they put their subs in. It was, Amir Coffey and Kennard and some of these other guys. It wasn't Reggie Jackson. He got benched. Batum got benched. Zubac got benched. It was mainly Coffey and Kennard. Hartenstein played a big role. So even though this is a back-to-back for the Clippers, their guys are pretty fresh because they sat at least half the game while the second unit brought them back for the win. So what does that do to tonight? I think it makes it more of a normal game for them. I don't think they're just going to go to the subs early like they did there. I think that was just done because they didn't really have any other choice at that point. So I'm going to consider this game as a pretty much normal game. So for the Clippers, we've got Marcus Morris, who missed that game last night. He's questionable. I think he plays personally. I think it was one of those, we're going to play him one of the two back-to-back nights, but we need to keep an eye on that. Of course, George, Leonard, and Preston are out. For the 9-39 Orlando Magic, Mo Bamba is questionable, so that always gives you a heartburn for sure. The guys that are out, MCW, Fultz, Hampton, Isaac, and Moore. So somewhat of a similar situation there. As far as statistically, Clippers 14th in pace, Orlando 11th. Defensively, Clippers 6th, Orlando 23rd. So definitely not good D on the Orlando side. Gives a little bit of a pump up to some of these Clippers players. But again, their bench, they've been using a lot of guys because they've been so shorthanded and have been able to remain right around 500. So kudos to them for sure. You can look at the Clippers several ways. Reggie Jackson at 6'5" after, being benched yesterday. Amir Coffey could definitely start and get minutes. He was part of that comeback at a 5'5" number, but you got to be careful. This is only a 212.5 total. Batum, same deal, was benched, but should be fresh and can get to that 5'7" number. Marcus Morris, if he's in without restrictions at 6'6", is certainly gets my interest. After that, though, you've got a real crapshoot of players. Zubac, Kennard, Mann, Hartenstein, Bledsoe, Boston, Ibaka, and even Winslow. So they've been, next man up by committee, playing about 11 guys and trying to get some wins. So not a huge Clippers guy here, but Orlando's defense is so porous. It's very tempting for a Jackson, Coffey, Morris, or even Batum. So one of those guys could be a one-off for me today. On the Orlando side, Cole Anthony's been stung me twice in a row now after carrying me to victory several times this season. So I'm a little sour on him. I don't know if it's the situation with Suggs came back. It seemed like Anthony's usage went down. The numbers proved that it did a little bit, but it seems like it's been more apparent than the numbers even show. So not going to go to Anthony at 6'7" or Suggs at 5'8", but I do think both guys are good prices and the right game flow could be a good play. But against a top 6 defense in the Clippers and this low of a total, I'm just not going to reach there, at this time. Wagner's really hit the sort of rookie wall, been very more inconsistent lately. The guy that's been the best is Wendell Carter Jr., and I will consider him. He's 6'8", though, which is a bit of a concern. And, if he's going to grab some Batum defense, some Ibaka defense, they can play good internal defense. So, and he's also just come back a couple of games here from being out. So not 100% sure I'm going to go there, but Carter would be my first choice. If Bamba does sit, it brings some other guys into play like Chuma Okeke at 4'3". I think he becomes a really good option. Terrence Ross at 3'6". He's always has the capability of getting hot at a really low price. All right, we're going to the 7:30 games. There are two of those now. The first one is the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat. How about 203 as a total? I wish they should have made it 199 just to blow people's minds. But yep, you've got two teams here that definitely do not play fast. So it's Miami -6, 203 total, paltry 98.5 for the Knicks, 104.5 for the Miami Heat. In this matchup, we've got the Knicks at 23-25. The Heat are 30-17, despite missing all different guys for big chunks of the season. Amazing job they're doing there, Spoelstra and that Miami Heat organization. Mitchell Robinson is questionable. Toss up to play. We got to watch that as the news goes on. His running mate at center that splits time with him, Nerlens Noel, also questionable. So what a nightmare. We've got that whole Robinson, Noel, and Taj Gibson, just, count them all out when they're all playing because they're split too much. I mean, you may get lucky with Robinson occasionally, but now that you've got two of them questionable, all of a sudden, and I'm going to say this and probably throw up in my mouth, but Taj Gibson would become an option if Robinson and Noel are out. Now, it's not a plug and play because they do go small and let Randall play the 5, but still, if somehow Robinson and Noel both get ruled out, I would consider Gibson. But that's the only case, and we'll see what the news is. I really don't want any of them, to be honest with you. Arcidiacono is out. Rose is out. For Miami, they have 4 players out: Lowry, Morris, Okpala, and Oladipo. And I did read that Oladipo is very close to a return. He may be back as soon as this weekend. So, man, once they get all their players healthy, the Heat are going to be very, very dangerous. All right, this game is there's 3 island games, right? Yeah, this is the second one. This is the second island game on the board. Neither team played yesterday. The Knicks are 30th in pace, Miami 28th. So walk the ball up the floor is probably going to be something we're going to see. Defensively, on top of that, Knicks are up to 11th. They're getting to respectable level, which is surprising. They're out of the top 10. They were up in the top 10 all last year, but they're 11th, Miami 7th. So all kinds of issues here, with pace and defense, total in Vegas. It's a rough one, man, very rough. Could you consider somebody here? I mean, not paying the 6-3 for Kemba or 4-2 for Quickly or 6-9 for Burks. I mean, it's just impossible to play those guys. Fournier at 5'8", we know he's had like once every 10 days or so, he'll hit 6-7 threes and pay off, but then he'll just barely get to his number, or he'll be, a hard snowflake there on DraftKings. So tough to go there too against this good defense. RJ Barrett's been fantastic lately. I think he's outplayed Randall even. He's been the best player on their team in the last 3 weeks or so, but he is 7'8", and he's going to get welcome Mr. Jimmy Bucket's defense. So a big giant X on Barrett for me. I'm not playing him against Butler. Julius Randle, 9'5". He's going to get harassed by Tucker and Adebayo, so I'm not going there. And he's had his struggles. He's had some great games, and his usage is good, but he has had some real shooting struggles this year. His three-point shooting is down 10%. You don't see that much of a drop in one season, but he is not shooting the ball well. So at 9'5", not going there either. And I already explained the craziness of the center position. For Miami, it looks like it's probably going to be Vincent, Robinson, Butler, Tucker, and Adebayo. That they're getting some good run there. But the great news is Tyler Hero's out of health protocol. So he's back and ready to roll today. And he's only 6'6", so he's a consideration. I played Duncan Robinson the last time, and he was phenomenal, man. He's only 4'3", and I think he's got a great shot to get to his number and then some again here. So Duncan Robinson is a consideration. Paying up for Jimmy Butler at 8'5", not the worst idea. He also completely smashed it last time. But again, the pace, the reduced possessions here is going to be an issue. And that concerns me for sure. It sounds like these guys are going to come through the damn roof. I can't believe this, but they're going to get it done. After that, it's, Bam at 7-7, certainly a consideration, especially if Mitch and Noel sit. I do respect their defense. Gibson's okay on D, but he's older now. So Bam in consideration at 7-7, but this game, one off is at best, just not enough possessions, not enough scoring, not enough opportunity. All right. We go to the other 7:30 game. It's the Sacramento Kings at the Atlanta Hawks. Now we're talking. We go from a 203 to a 235. So you talk about much more opportunity for tons of DFS points, 32 points more than the last game. You've got Atlanta minus 8.5 and a very impressive implied total of 121.75. Sacramento at 113.25. These teams come in, Sacramento reeling, have they not been reeling for the last 15 years? They're 18-31, looking to blow things up, make changes, just play that same recording every year. That's pretty much explains the Kings. Atlanta Hawks are 21-25. They're rumored to possibly be trading Capella and Collins, and it seems to be a common theme there now the last couple of years that they're one of the teams that are talked about here as the NBA trade deadline comes up on February 10th. Questionable tag on De'Aaron Fox. He was ruled out yesterday. This is a back-to-back for Sacramento, but not for Atlanta. Island game for them. Second night of a back-to-back. We think maybe Fox sat yesterday so that he could play today against Young. So I'm hoping that's the case. That's what I've got in my projections right now. So even though he's questionable, I have him as in. Halliburton is playing some good ball. He'll be in there. But the guy that got hurt really smacked his head bad and missed the rest of the game last night was Terrence Davis. It was a shame because he went to the hoop really fast. He looked great. And this noise is hilarious. But then he got knocked down and hit his head. So he's out more than likely. He's questionable, but I'd be shocked if he plays. If he's not in concussion protocol, I don't know who is. So again, he's questionable, but I'm considering him out early on. And another questionable tag on Metu, which does matter because of that interior rotation for the Sacramento players. For Atlanta, Bogdanovich looks like he'll be back. He's probable. The guy that's questionable, though, is DeAndre Hunter, who's been playing a bigger role of late. So that's important news to get. The only other designation is TLC, and he is questionable as well. Statistically, we can look at the Sacramento Kings, 6th in pace, Atlanta 16th in pace. So we should have, that lends to that 235 number. But this is the one that gets me. How about the 28th and 29th defense in the league? So you've got two of the worst three defenses in the entire league playing against each other. Got to target this game. I know it's going to be an obvious target for people. Are they going to stack up this game and everything? I know stacks have been doing well lately, but if you notice, don't get carried away with it. Stacks in baseball, yes, you got to do it. Correlation in football, I get all that. But in basketball, stacks seem to work when you have a bunch of guys out and you're going to have like four guys that get almost all the usage. We've seen that recently with like the Raptors and a couple other teams. And those teams do get optimal lineups. I saw a 4-3 stack a couple days ago take down some stuff. But in general, it's not a great idea. And unless you have those teams that you really see that everyone else is out, the ball boy's the fifth guy starter and the scorekeeper's the sixth man. So, when you have those scenarios, go ahead and stack. But, a game like this is tempting to stack. But remember, we've got 10 games and neither one of these teams is missing a ton of good players at all. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I know I had that question in Discord a couple days ago. Who can we play here? If De'Aaron Fox is ready to roll 100%, he is 8-2, which isn't a bad price. Up and down, though, definitely some risk there, but also some reward. If Fox sits, Halliburton will be 100% play for me. He's 7-5, especially if Terrence Davis doesn't play. So in that scenario, Halliburton for sure. I may play Halliburton anyway, even if Fox is in, because he's a fair 7-5, and he gets stats all over the place. He can get all kinds of different numbers. The other, question marks are tough. Let's see what the news is on Davis. But then you have Barnes, Bagley, Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell, all question marks that I just don't see on a cash build of any kind. They're between, 6-3 for Barnes is a little high. People have been trying to force in Holmes a little bit at 4-5, and he's just not playing at the level he was, but he's a good play. I'm probably not going to go there with this many options on the board. So let's see who's in and out with a couple of those guys, but more so looking in the backcourt for the Kings. For the Hawks, you've got Trey, who's been terrific, but he's 10-4. 10-4 is a big number. I like it, but I don't know if that's really the spot I want to focus on for sure. Bogdanovich being back at 4-6. We don't know about DeAndre Hunter, but if he is in with no restrictions, they keep putting him at like 5-5 like he is today. So he's been super cheap to get in there. Collins and Capella, a lot of instability there. I don't know if it's the trade rumors. They're both certainly capable, but I haven't seen any real ceiling games for either one of them lately. Collins is only 7 and Capella is 7-1. So in a lot of situations, those would be a really good number. And maybe this is one of them because we do have that 235 number. I do want a little exposure from both sides here for sure. And the question is, do we pay up for the Foxes, Halliburtons, and Youngs, or can we feel comfortable with some value play in like the, Hunters, Collins, really Capella at mid-level also. So some decisions need to be made there. Some of it will have to do with those questionable players, whether they're in or out. All right, we shift to 2 8 o'clock games. The first 8 o'clock game is the Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago's favored by 4. It's a 218.5 total, 107.25 for Toronto, 111.25 for the Chicago Bulls. Toronto comes in at 23-22, Chicago at 29-17. Van Vliet questionable, Scotty Barnes questionable, and we had just crazy news with that team. That was one of those stackable teams where they had a ton of guys out, so who knows what's going on there. We definitely need that news. We do know that Birch, Dragic, and Johnson are out. So if Van Vliet and Barnes are ruled in, they're going to pretty much be at full strength from, having very few players last get-go. And that was last night. Toronto played last night. So my gut feeling is Nick Nurse was resting the boys for this game against the Bulls tonight. I think this is an important game for these two teams. And personally, I expect the Toronto guys to play. I'd be very surprised if any of them were ruled out. So in my initial models here and builds, I've got all those guys in, but definitely keep tabs on that. So Chicago, on the other hand, did not play yesterday. So island game for them. Vuk is probable. And then Tyler Cook, questionable. And then the guys out, Ball, Caruso, Jones, and Williams. So, couple guys out, and we'll see. I think Vuk will play. But this will be a real heads-up game between two really good teams. Not a huge total because they're both good defensively. Not as good as they'd like to be, though. In fact, you'd be surprised that they're both below average defensive efficient teams in this league. And I bet you if I quiz people, they'd say they were both in the top half, but they're actually 17th and 18th. So I don't know if some of that's been when they've had people out. Those numbers have gotten stung a little bit. But these are two teams and two coaches in Nurse and Donovan that know how to coach defense. So I think the numbers are just maybe a little skewed there, but the bottom line is they're 17th and 18th defensively. Pace-wise, nothing to write home about either. 23rd for Toronto, 17th for Chicago. So not a target game, but with that low spread of -4 for Chicago, I think Vegas expects a lot of these Raptors to play as well. So do you go up to the big prices here? In Van Vliet at 8.7, pretty big number there. Levine at 8.3 and DeRozan at 8.2. None of them are ridiculous numbers. They're all playable, but those are certainly the top three targets in this game. And I wouldn't mind having one of them to suit up. Gary Trent Jr. is only $5K, so he's going to get a lot of ownership. Only shooting guard eligible, though, on DraftKings hurts him a little bit, but he's certainly in play. Anunoby at 6.7. Scotty Barnes, if he's in, at 6.4, and Pascal Siakam at 8.9. All very playable guys. And then depending on who's in and out, Boucher at 5.9 or Achua at 3.8, you could also discuss in this game. As far as the Chicago side, Dosunmu had a game out of his mind, but he's 6.3 now. So that super value on Dosunmu is not there anymore. Makes it a tougher play without question. Like I said, Levine and DeRozan, very fair at the low 8 number. Definitely could commit to one of the two, leaning a little bit more towards Levine over DeRozan for me. Levine had that minutes restriction of like 30 minutes the last game, so I think that's pretty much going to be removed. Vuk at 9.6, he's expensive. He's had some really good games. The fire symbol has been next to him here, but there are a lot of times he has not gotten to his number, and he's very expensive. So little concern there. Kobe White at 7.3, a little overpriced, but he will get decent rotational minutes. All right. The other 8 o'clock games, the Denver Nuggets and the Brooklyn Nets. Denver's favored by 2. Nice 221 total. We've got Denver and Brooklyn played last night. So both teams coming off, a doubleheader here, having to play again tonight. Denver, with this 221 total, has a 111.5 implied. Brooklyn has a 109.5. So very interesting here. This game has a lot of interest. I think you'll see a lot of people gravitating to this game just because of the big names. Denver comes in 25-21, Brooklyn 29-18. Questionable tag on Will Barton, so that's important news. The 3 guys out for Denver, Canchar, Murray, and Porter. For Brooklyn, we already know they have 4 guys out. KD, Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving, Paul Millsap. So, we're back to that scenario, and Harden paid off the last time. Do you just put Harden in at 11.5 and be done with it because he doesn't have Durant or Irving with him? I think it's pretty hard not to do that. It's certainly going to be high on my list. Harden is my favorite buy up right now, and I know it's going to be chalky and, doesn't seem like just a no-brainer play that everybody should play, but I think it is. I mean, that is just the usage, everything that he does for that team when those 2 guys are out are sort of ridiculous. So I'll start there. As far as pace in this game, Denver's 22nd, Brooklyn 8th. So it is a pace down game for Brooklyn. No question about that. So that, after Harden, I'm not sure I'll go anywhere else there. Plus, there's a lot of questions in that rotation, big time. As far as defense, Denver 20th, Brooklyn down to 14th. So they have plummeted out of that top 10 defensively. So it does make for some good plays in this game. I mean, you certainly can't put all your chips in the middle of the table and go Joker at 12-4 and Harden at 11-5 and then scramble the rest of the way. But I don't know if I would recommend that. I think, to me, you have to choose between Harden or the Joker. They may both get 80 here. I mean, it's possible if this game stays close. They're both in an absolute smash spot. So I certainly wouldn't say don't play those two guys, because they're two phenomenal plays, maybe the two best pay-ups on the whole slate, and they just happen to be playing against each other. So, Morris, Barton, Jeff Green haven't really been consistent enough for me. Again, I don't want 18 or 22 DFS points. And at 4-6, 5-7, and 4-4, I get it. They can get there if it's the right day. They can also sink the ship. Gordon, I have a little more interest in at 6-5. I think he's shown consistency for a while now after getting dogged so much early in the season. So he's a possible play, and he's almost half price from the Joker. So, again, the Joker at 12-4 can be considered. After that, just a bunch of guys off the bench for Denver that I'm really not interested in. If I knew Bones Highland was going to play big minutes, I'd like him at 3-4, but we're just not convinced that's going to happen. Now, if Barton does sit, he's questionable, then that combination comes in play. But the tough part is they picked up Bryn Forbes in that trade the other day, and he's grabbing some of those guard minutes because he can shoot the ball. So it makes it a little bit more difficult trying to roster up that team. After Harden with Brooklyn, Patty Mills is all the way down to 4-9. He's the second option scoring-wise when Harden's not in there. So I can see firing him up. He would be the only other guy I'd really even consider after Harden. Just a group of guys that if you can figure them out, then you're a better DFS player than me. Bembry, Edwards, Sharp, Aldridge, Brown, Claxton, Johnson, Thomas, and even Griffin and Carter. Why not throw them into that insane mix? So to me, it's like Steve Nash is saying, hey, when Harden, Kyrie, and KD are in, we're just going to ride those boys. Everybody else play a role. If any of those guys are out, it's going to be positioned by committee, and we're going to rotate guys around, give guys minutes, young guys, old guys, and they have a wild combination of guys. But if you can consistently tell me you think they're, a great play night after night, I don't agree with you. I just think there's way too much volatility really in that 10-person rotation after the three bigs, which two of them are out. So Harden, a possibility with Mills, and no thanks. I'm out of Tums, and I don't need that stress for Brooklyn. All right. That is it for the 8 o'clock games. We have an 8:30 game, Memphis Grizzlies and the San Antonio Spurs. Memphis is favored by 4, solid 228.5 total, 116.25 implied for Memphis, 112.25 for the San Antonio Spurs. Interesting game here. Not one I'm excited about, but interesting. Memphis comes in at 32-17, San Antonio at 18-30. We have a questionable tag on Desmond Bane and Brandon Clark. 3 guys out for Memphis: Anderson, Brooks, and Jones. For San Antonio, just one designation. Keita Bates-Diop is out. So how do we look at this game? Where is there any good plays in this game? Well, number one, the Spurs are on the second night of a back-to-back. So go ahead and get popped. Load up on some Spurs and then scream and yell at your TV. But it is the second night of a back-to-back. And when you look at pace here, Memphis is 5th in pace and Spurs 7th. So that does get my interest. 5th and 7th is no joke. These two teams get up and down the floor. 228.5 is a nice number. Defensively, Memphis is 8th, and we know the last couple of months they've been a top 3 defense. Spurs are only 19th. So quite a bit to unpack here. I mean, Ja Morant, always a first option. He's 9'9", but he's going to be guarded by DeJounte Murray, who's 9'8". So Murray is, to me, an all NBA defensive player. And that scares me a little bit with Jaw, but at 9.9, that's just such a big pay up price. I love him. He can break the slate, but I don't think this is the right spot for him. If Desmond Bane's not back, it gives me a little more interest in Morant, just because, Bane's shot attempts, all of that's gone, and it doesn't quite transfer over to the guys that play for him, like Melton and Conchar and those guys. So that's the only way I'd consider Morant if Bane is ruled out. If Bane's in and doesn't have any restrictions, I think he's a reasonable play at 6'4". I mean, he's not nearly the player Morant is, but he's also 3.5K cheaper. Zaire Williams at 3.9. I've been tempted, but again, on GPP only. Jackson can throw good games on the board. I don't trust him at 6'6", especially when Adams does play, because Adams grabs a lot of those rebounds at 4.5. But you've got two big, bulky, strong centers with Adams against Pirtle. Pirtle's no small guy. He's 6'2", though, a little pricey there. So I'm not really fond of either bigs here. And then the bench, you've got a pretty deep bench here. Nobody that I'm comfortable going to, though, unless Bane is out. At that point, I would consider a Melton, a Conchar, somebody like that. But they're getting a lot of play from their backups. Tilly and Aldama, they've been playing a lot behind Jackson and Adams. I think they're really developing well. So don't want any part of any of those split minutes. So not super high on the Grizz tonight, and I usually like the Grizz. You've got Morant at that 9.9 and Desmond at 6'4", but just not real fired up to get on that bandwagon today. Murray, do you pay up 9.8 for? I mean, it's possible. He has gotten a lot of triple doubles. He smashed some slates, but that is a big number to get to against a good Grizzlies team, a top 10 defensive team. So as normal, I very rarely get to Murray. I like him a lot. I think he's awesome, but I don't get to him very often. Oh no, they're going to pound my ceiling in right on top of me here. Derek White, 5'9", risky, but he's been much more consistent since he's come back. You can consider him. After that, though, forget it, man. I'm just so frustrated trying to figure anything out with these guys that I think pretty much stink. I'm sorry. McDermott, Johnson, Vassell, Walker, Bates-Diop's out, but Eubanks, Landell, Trey Jones, that young, who knows who's going to get into these games. And I get it. Vassell can play, Keldon Johnson can play, Walker can play, but they're all going to split minutes. It's the second night of a back-to-back. There's no way any of these guys are getting 30 minutes that I just mentioned. Yes, on Murray and White, they will. Pirtle could, but, backcourt guys for both teams here, I wouldn't mind a one-off on each side. All right, 2 games left. Real quickly, we would love to have you at DFS Coach Talk. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. We have a great offer right now. It's called the 4 Sports Special, and it goes from the day you sign up all the way until the end of the NBA playoffs on June 16th. So you get all of our sports. We have 4 sports that we do. We focus and try to be the best of the best at the NBA, PGA, MLB, and NBA and NFL. Those 4 are our sports. We think we perform as high as anybody in the industry in those. We do not offer badminton and all the crazy sports, field hockey, you name it. We just don't think, if you can't be an expert in something and smash it, why do it? So not saying anything negative about any of our competitors, go for it, but we're focused on winning in those 4 major sports. We'd love to have you try us out. We've got, again, if you don't want to go for the big commitment through June, then try us out for 3 days for $10, a week for $25. Just like entering one contest. I think you'll love our Discord. We have a great team here at Coach Talk that does a fantastic job. And we treat every member as family. We really do. And that's important to what we do. So look forward to having you try us out. If you're watching on YouTube right now, a quick thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, give us a comment, just hello, whatever. Enjoy the podcast, ask a question, whatever you need to do. But the combination of hitting the subscribe button, the thumbs up, and giving us a quick word really helps us move up the algorithm on YouTube. And we do this in front of the paywall 7 days a week for the NBA. We've got a great podcast coming out today for the championship week in the NFL. Our PGA podcast posted on Monday because the tournament started today. You can catch that once a week also. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of those and you're watching on YouTube, hit the little bell, the alert button in the top corner. That'll let you know when any of our podcasts post. If you're listening to our audio podcast, where everywhere podcasts can be heard, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, you name it, we are there. Take a second, give us 5 stars, quick little comment again, couple of words. That qualifies you for a drawing for a full 1 week all-access membership to Coach Talk. And that is drawn at the end of every month. And we are getting close to that. It is the 26th. So we're less than a week away from that drawing. So we would appreciate that as well. All right. 2 games, late slate. We may have to do it tonight, folks. Our members that are listening, we will probably have a 2-game after-hours slate that we will offer for DraftKings Fanduel and Yahoo. So big alert there. Also wanted to mention, I don't know if a lot of you caught it or not, I was on with Gundacker on Monday. Was it Monday? I believe that we did a podcast collaboration together. He's actually going to be on with me this coming Monday, and we're going to collab on the Coach Talk podcast. So excited to work with him. He's a terrific guy, and we trying to support each other, collab, get up there with the big boys. So and also was invited back. Probably going to do another live stream with him next week. So we'll keep that going. And it seemed to draw a lot of interest. People enjoyed it. So he's at Run DFS. And of course, we're here at Coach Talk. So look forward to that. All right. After our slate, here we go. 10 o'clock, Phoenix, Utah. Phoenix by 3.5, 224.5 total, 114 implied for the Suns, 110.5 for the Utah Jazz. So another great matchup here of 2 powerhouse West teams. 37-9 Phoenix and 30-18 Utah. Designations, Phoenix has a long list here. Ayton out, Crowder, Kaminsky, McGee, Nader, Payne, and Sarge all out. For Utah, no Gobert and Mitchell. Their 2 best players out. So even though we got this huge game, we have some major players that are not going to be in the mix. So how does that shake out, and does this make for a good game for DFS? Well, the good news is this is that other game that I was talking about, the 3rd game of the night that has no back-to-back. It's not the 2nd or 1st night. This is an island game. So even though all those guys are out, really narrows down to some, I think, really good plays. Phoenix is 13th in pace and Utah 18th. So the combination, very average pace, not going to be a negative in any way. The negative part is Phoenix is 2nd and Utah is 10th in team defensive efficiency. So you do have 2 terrific defensive teams here. But because of some of the guys that are out, it's what we talked about earlier, that usage number just dives towards people. So there's some definite interest I have here. We might as well mention it right off the bat. Bismack Biyombo is going to be a chalk. He's going to be a highly owned player today, and he deserves to be. You've got his other 2 counterpart centers in Ayton and McGee out. So 5-5 Bismack Biyombo, take the free square and move on down the road. It is what it is. I sort of hate when there's free squares like that, but as a blocker, whatever you got to do, it's a center spot. I know that sucks too, but, he puts 40 up or 35 even, at that price. It's so hard to pass up. And he should get big minutes. The backup center is going to be Jalen Smith at 3.6. If you feel like, Biombo's a veteran and Monty Williams is going to split minutes between Biombo and Jalen Smith. Now, we haven't seen him play at all. He's been buried as the fourth center now. But when he did play before they picked up Biombo, he was very good. So I wouldn't count him out. I may use him in a GPP because if he grabs 20 minutes, I think Jalen Smith can smash that 3.6 number. But there's risk involved. Wouldn't do it in cash. Chris Paul at 9K, fine play here. Devin Booker at 9.7 has been in a groove. I like Booker here at pay up. Mikal Bridges at 5.9 can get it done. Cam Johnson came through for us at 4.3. He's a terrific play. And then, as I mentioned, Biombo. Bench is going to be a little thin. Really, probably, Smith, Shamet, Elfrid Payton. They definitely are not deep. So I'll be rostering more than likely 2 Suns on this slate tonight, just determining, what combination of those 4 guys or 5 guys, I should say, because all 5 are into consideration for me. Probably Biombo is the cheap one, and more than likely I'll pay up for either Paul or Booker. But if I don't find the funds there, I'm fine getting the second Sun being either Bridges or Johnson. I think that Cam Johnson's an up-and-comer, and that 4.3 price is really good. On the Jazz side, Hassan Whiteside at 6.6, another guy that's in a position that he's going to be playing big minutes at center. He's 1,001 higher than Biombo. I prefer Biombo over him. I know Whiteside can smash. I just always talk about the fact I just don't trust Whiteside. He gets in foul trouble. He just sometimes plays like airheaded basketball, but other times he dominates. So, not a huge fan. Probably not going to have, but I think he'll be very popular. And I wouldn't blame you for going Whiteside here. Makes sense. 6.6 isn't a giveaway, though. Conley at 7.2, Ingles at 5K, Bogdanovich at 6.9, and maybe even O'Neal at 4.8 slip into play. I think Conley, Ingles, and Bogdanovich are your 3 main targets here, and they're all priced decently. If you want to go with a second Jazz player and you don't want to use Whiteside, Clarkson at 7.4, possibly. Rudy Gay at 4.4. Trent Forrest started and played really well at 3.5. And then, you can go a little deeper. Daniel House broke the slate the other day at 3.2, but that's when none of the Jazz played. So I'm not falling for the trap with Forrest, Pascal, House, even Gay. I just don't think you need to go there with a lot of the guys back from Utah. I do think some of those guys will get minutes, but not enough to make my cash lineup. I'm sticking with the guys I expect to get 35 plus, specifically Bogdanovich, even O'Neal a little bit, Ingles, and Conley I think will play more, not 35, but he'll get a decent amount of minutes. So a lot of exposure to this game. I like it, and I think you'll see that this game is going to have a good effect on the slate. All right, these guys are going to break down my entire house here. Dallas Mavericks at Portland Trailblazers, the other 10 o'clock game. It is Dallas -5. It's a 216 total. Dallas and Portland played last night, so both of these teams are on the second night of a back-to-back as opposed to the other 10 o'clock game. So that hurts a little bit. And then you had Tim Hardaway go down. He got hurt pretty bad. It's not looking good. He may be out for quite some time last night. So that was disappointing. But Dallas, like I say, is 5-point favorite, 216, 110.5 implied for Dallas, 105.5 for Portland. Phoenix is Dallas is 27-21. These guys pounding are driving me crazy. Dallas is 27-21. Portland is 20-27. Sterling Brown, questionable. He's been out of the rotation. Again, Tim Hardaway out probably for some time. For Portland, Nazir Little, that's big news. He is questionable. Really need to know that. The guys that are out, Lillard, Nance, and Zeller. So statistically, Dallas, second slowest team in the league at 29th. Portland is 15th. So, there's going to be some slow play here. Certainly not the pace that we really think is conducive. Dallas is fourth in the league in defense, although you wouldn't have thought that last night against Golden State. They played poorly, but they are fourth. Portland, we know, is terrible. They're 27th. So, the $1 million question is your other pay-up spot, Luka. He's 11-1, which is expensive, but we know he can break a slate. I don't know if that's the other spot to go for your pay-up, but certainly a good option. Definitely a strong option for the after-hours slate. I will have him there. Don't think he's going to make my cut, though, for the overall main slate for the big pay-up. Jalen Brunson is a good price at 5.7. Maxi Kleber at 3.6. Kristaps, he was awful. You never know what you're going to get from him at 7.6, but he can always break a slate as well. How's Hardaway's absence going to affect things? Probably get a little bit more play from Reggie Bullock, who's not the worst play at 3.3. Wouldn't go for any of the other guys. I can't say Finney-Smith or Powell or Green or any of those guys are going to be effective. You may get a little bit of Frank Ntilikina back into the rotation with Hardaway out. He's 3-1, but definitely can't go there. So really, you either pay up for Luka or you take the chance on Kristaps, or if you want to go cheaper, again, Jalen Brunson at 5.7, that's the cheapest he's been in a while. So he's probably my favorite play on that side. Portland, Simon 7K, McCollum 7.3. So very fair priced guys. But again, going against a really good defensive and very slow team in Dallas, although it is a back-to-back and they didn't look good last night. So, it does give those guys an opportunity. Nazir Little, if he's in, he's 4.9, super good price, but we don't have that news. Covington and Nurkic, the two bigs for Portland, I think are both interesting to me. Covington has had a few poor games, but he had really been getting it together, and he's cheap at 5.5. I think Nurk, if he gets the big minutes on the back-to-back at 7.7, I think can really take advantage of some of that interior defense from the Mavericks, although it has gotten much better. I used to plug and play the center against the Mavs every day, but it's not automatic. But Nurkic is in at 7.7 as a possibility. Norman Powell also at 6.3, especially if Little's out. And then after that, it becomes very thin. All right, my friends, that is a big bunch of important games with a massive amount of news. I hope it, and they're going out in style, smashing the roof in. So I hope that didn't distract you too much. Hope that you're welcome. Thank you. I hope that this really helped you. And I know Dirk's fired up for the late game. I love when the Mavs are on the West Coast and get some late night basketball. But enjoy your games today. Hope you enjoyed this entire podcast. Give us a thumbs up, quick sub. We'd love to have our subscriber numbers jump up, and really appreciate all of you. So check out the football podcast that we're posting today. It's fantastic. You get a 3-man booth with Andrew, Joe, and Josh. So you're getting all the brains of behind football for this big day on Sunday. And then if you haven't checked out our golf pod, check that out. We're also, we provided lineups for the full tournament, and we will be providing lineups on Thursday night for the Friday and Saturday golf, because they're playing this crazy tournament Wednesday through Saturday for the first time in PGA history, because they don't want to bump into the football on Sunday. So check that out. Again, if you get that three-day $10, you get all of our football coming up, all of our basketball, and all of our PGA. So check us out. We'd love to have you. Appreciate you listening in and spending this time with me. Tomorrow is a small little 2-gamer, but it's the return of Andrew Hansen. He's going to be doing the Thursday podcasts for now that football slowed down. So for NBA, he and I will be joining forces like the old days here on Thursdays, but it's only a 2-game slate. So we will have a lot of time to chat tomorrow. Hopefully these guys are finished with my roof and we don't have that issue. But join us tomorrow for sure, because Andrew and I will both be here and we'll be looking to crush it in NBA DFS.